Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Artcis gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second round of the Virtual Reality Racing Club GT4 eSeries, being held here at the fantastic Misano Marco Simoncelli World Circuit here in Italy. Standing in for Anthony Jordan this week, you probably hear my voice normally on the Touring Car eSeries. It's Alex Goldschmidt returning alongside MSL Most Consultancy's Martin Jones. Good evening, Martin. How are you?
Good evening, Alex. Absolutely marvellous, thank you, and looking forward to this one. And welcome back. You missed an absolute storming couple of races at Imola. This is just going to be a great circuit for these cars. You talk about the sort of touring car being hooligans. The guys didn't disappoint last week.
Yep, so two races last time out a week ago at Imola. The track configuration here at Misano, it's the full Grand Prix circuit. It is 2.626 miles, 4.226 kilometres. And at the moment, looks like practice is in the latter throes. Tonight, this evening, we have qualifying. We also have two 20-minute races. But before we really get into the meat and potatoes of the second round of the season, let's have a look at what happened last time out at Imola. So it was Maximilian Röhrig in the BMW M4 GT4 that pipped Dave Marshall to pole position, and then it was a trio of BMW M4 GT4s thanks to Andreas Hillig. But in race one and race two, Dave Marshall, who recently took the crown as he's a two-time Touring Car eSeries champion. He took both race victories. In the first race, it was the Chevy Camaro of Luke Whitehead, and then Andreas Hillig rounded out the top three positions in race one. And it was a 10-tenths 1-2, courtesy of Dave Marshall and Touring Car eSeries Season 2 runner-up Jack McIntyre, with Ross Gunn in the MSL Motorsport Consultancy Aston Martin Vantage rounding out the top three. So Dave Marshall comes into this on 81 points with Adrenaline e-Motorsports, Andreas Hillig, and Adrenaline Motorsport. I had to give a shout out to Charlie Martin, who is currently going to be competing in the VLN with Adrenaline Motorsport, the real life team. So Andreas running out the top two ahead of Jack McIntyre. Then it's Tom O'Farrell, in fourth, ahead of Luke Whitehead, with Maximilian Röhrig rounding out the top 6 positions. Ross Gunn not here this week due to the 24 hours of Le Mans commitments actually at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Alex Toth-Jones, James Merrills and Andy Carroll round out the top 10 positions. I'm reliably informed that Bobby Thompson joins the grid from the British Touring Car Championship, and he'll be taking Ross's place this evening. So we're at Misano for the second round, Watkins Glen in a week's time, then Indianapolis, Silverstone Grand Prix, Monza, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and Le Mans rounding out the 8-round calendar, with the first prize to the champion of a set of OBP Esports pedals, a Steel Series Artcis Pro for second, a 6-month Pro VRRC. So I've just been told that Bobby Thompson won't be joining us today. A big thank you to Mike Yao from Simply Race once again for providing the fantastic broadcast visuals in both sound and vision. A 6-month Pro Virtual Reality Club membership for third, 2 1-hour VRRC sim sessions for fourth, and a 1-hour online pro coaching session for fifth. And we do have ballast, we do have reverse grids. So really here, Martin, it's looking rather interesting. Just coming into the first forays, as you can now see on your screens, we've got Dave Marshall along with the dedicated practice session timing well underway. We've got about just over 3 minutes of the session, but it's Andy Dorman in the McLaren 570S that is leading the way on a 1 minute 43.435. Scott Thorne in second, ahead of Maxi Röhrig, Max Edmondson, Andreas Hellig rounding out the top 5, with Konstantin Kletzer, another driver that's decided to go for the BMW. He rounds out the top 6, with James Merrills, Dave Marshall, Rob Butler, and Tom O'Farrell rounding out the top 10 positions, and a whole host of GT4 machinery here at Misano. And what a great track to be racing at this evening here, Martin, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a great circuit. It's more motorcycle, but these guys are going to have a blast round here. And looking at the times, BMW are very dominant at the last round, but now there's a bit of a mix-up there, which I really like seeing. From an MSL point of view, we've had Bobby Thompson, who can't make it for professional reasons, and Ross Gunn is racing at Le Mans, so I'll forgive him that one. It's great that MSL have, we've got these pro drivers that actually love the virtual game. It's they do send their apologies to those who are looking for them, but they will be back.
Indeed, as is Mikko Raskinen, who puts on YouTube. Good luck, guys. I'll join you next week. Paulo Ferreira has been singing Team Adrenaline's praises, so he's also said that good evening, guys, as we see one of the cars, that looks to be Kenny Press, that's just hit the wall going down the start-finish straight. He said that good evening, guys, have fun and don't kill each other digitally. Well, we'll try and pass the message on, Paolo, but you try telling a driver not to push. That is sort of like saying, like you're treading on eggshells, if I'm completely honest. Don't forget to follow the relevant social media feeds for the Virtual Reality Racing Club, as you can see on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Fantastic GT4 machinery, courtesy of Guerrilla Mods here as well. And, just seeing some other cars like the Chevrolet Camaro. Now, obviously, for those wondering about the Chevy itself, in GT3 form, it was actually produced by Reiter Engineering back in the day when Chevy did not sort of decide to facilitate a GT3 machine, so Reiter Engineering brought it onto themselves to do so. But another, a car that is a pure brute in terms of outright speed.
Yeah, they're absolutely great to watch. Rich Hayden's got himself out in a Mustang, and I did ask him why, and he said, "Well, I like the car, and it's great fun to drive. It's this might be out of his depth. Oh, somebody's out of his depth. I think he's got himself stuck in the sandpit."
Yeah, just thinking, I think that might have been, I saw Scott Thorne's name just showing up there, but he's in one of the Mercedes. But yeah, the Mustang GT4 actually being raced by Seb Prio in Multimatic, but over in IMSA stateside, and he's been doing pretty well as the son of 3-time World Touring Car Champion Andy Prio, who was for many years a BMW Works driver and then switched to the Blue Oval when the Ford GT came to Le Mans. And I think they concluded that project, Ford Performance did last year, and then brought out the tyre shredding Mustang Marquis RTR 1400 with Vaughan Gitton Jr. And that thing can drift completely sideways and shred a lot of tyres. So Ford still keeping their hand in with customer racing. Yannick de Prins, good evening. Hope you're keeping well. That's practice concluded. But Misano, a very, very fast-paced circuit. Obviously, we normally see it on MotoGP, Martin. But you've got some great big, you've got some really good corners. You've got the Variante del Parco going, which is like the first chicane. And then you've got Corvone, turn 11, which is where drivers will keep it planted at the rev limit, top gear, and they will not lift off. And I've seen in other championships that I've commentated on, drivers going too wide there, and I'm kind of expecting the same thing this evening.
Yeah, it's Curva del Caro at turn 3. That's an important one. Gives you into turn 4, turn 5, and Corvone at 6. And then you've got the long straight down to Tramonto, which is just ballistically quick and a great place to overtake. We're going to see a lot of overtaking. We're going to see a lot of elbows out. And race 2, it will not disappoint, that's for sure.
Very, very much the case. And obviously MSL Motorsport Consultancy, very much partners in crime with Virtual Reality Racing Club. Obviously the association continues, but there's been a bit of news, reference the real life racing exploits of MSL with a new driver in the form of W-Series Race Ace, and now taking Alex Toth-Jones's position at Into Racing. Sarah Moore joins for the rest of the campaign, whilst Alex has now moved on to the Aston Martin driver program as well. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've moved Alex to the Aston Martin program, which was always our plan. This year, because of COVID, we were going to run him in GT3 with Aston Martin Racing Beach Team, and we all know the chaos it's caused. So it was always our intention to run Alex in Aston, but just love having Sarah Moore there. She's quick. She's won championships, and she's going to get some serious track time in what is a great series, guys. If you want to have a good look at a competitive series with a manufacturer, which is what we always recommend to young drivers, have a look at the Porsche Sprint Championship.
Right, we're now into qualifying, a 15-minute session. There is Andreas Hillig in one of the BMW M4 GT4s. So we've got just over 13 minutes of the session still to go. So Hillig in the 265 BMW, getting a bit close to one of the McLaren 570 SGT4s.
Yeah, Rillick is really quick. He was unlucky in the last couple of races, but he should go well here. That BMW is really well set up. Talking to Rich Hayden, it's not demeaning it. It's one of the easier ones to set up, but it's a really good car.
Yeah, so he's currently third in qualifying at the moment as the first benchmark starting to come in. John Cole in the Audi R8 is currently leading the way on a 1 minute 54.428. Alex Toth-Jones in one of the MSL Motorsport Consultancy Aston Martin Vantage GT4s. He rounds out the top 6 at the moment. But the initial benchmarks that we're seeing from some of the drivers at the moment here, Martin, is not a true indicative pace of what we're going to see. So John Cole, Andy Dorman, Andreas Hillig have started the ball rolling quite early in this session.
Yeah, this isn't that an abrasive circuit. It's one of those ones where it will rubber in when these guys. It's not used that much, but I think towards the end of the race we'll see a lot of overtaking, a lot of opportunities. So
now there is John Cole with the multicoloured. I like the sort of like some of the liveries that we're actually seeing here in the GT4 series. The cornucopia of colour here is, so we've got John Cole in one of the Audis. I think we've got Max Edmondson in another Audi here as well. So it looks like 15 drivers covered by probably the best part of over 7 seconds at the moment, as now we get into real sort of proper qualifying pace. Andy Dorman, John Cole, Dave Marshall now jumps up into provisional pole in 1 minute 44.722. That's nearly half a second quicker than Andy Mellors in the leading Mercedes-AMG GT4. So the times are going to change as Maxi Röhrig now goes top, over 0.2 of a second quicker than Marshall in another BMW. So the BMWs again showing their pace here, but it is fast, it is flowing, it is also very, very technical here, Martin. So the drivers are really going to have to push like crazy if they want to get the optimum lap time. But Misano is a circuit where if you get it wrong, it can bite back really, really badly, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a Herman Tilke design. There's a few more bends in this. It's not two big straights and a curvy bit.
Yeah, so we're now with James West. He's currently running in 20. Well, he's just seeing whether he's set a lap time at the moment. I don't think he has at the moment, but this will change as the session proceeds. Andy Carroll in one of the McLarens. It's actually McLaren in sixth with Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll rounding out the top 10. So two 570Ss in there amidst a whole host of other manufacturers. It's a BMW 1-2 followed by a Mercedes 3-4 with Rob Butler and Andy Mellors. Not too far apart. Jack McIntyre rounds out the top 5 ahead of Andy Dorman, Konstantin Kletzer in 7th, Tom O'Farrell in 8th, James Merrills in the leading Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 just ahead of Andy Carroll. And it's getting rather interesting because the times, as you say, Martin, will start rubbering in as Dorman now goes to within 9 1/1000ths of a second of Maximilian Röhrig in the BMW M4 GT4. So it's showing that the McLarens are starting to really come good at the circuit, especially with the long straightaways.
Yeah, we had problems with a McLaren at the weekend with the Aston race, the GT Cup. We couldn't get close to the pesky thing. That was it was quite interesting. We had Alex out in the GT Cup, and we were representing the Bluebell Children's Hospice, and the livery was associated with that. What a great cause! We had some families there from the hospice, and the kids had a great time. And yeah, thank you to Matt Topham and Alex and Newbridge Motorsport Aston Martin Racing. Yeah, great help all weekend.
It looks like Rob Butler, I think, had an off-track excursion during qualifying and ended up going into the pits, so he's now rejoined the session. As Scott Thorne has now gone top of the timesheets on a 1 minute 44.149, and that is 0.368 seconds ahead of this driver here, Maxi Röhrig, and there is Scott Thorne, who now is leading the way in the Mercedes. So it's Falterbach versus München at the front of the field. München being the traditional way of saying Munich, even though us Brits do say Munich, and that's where I'm going to be flying in on this coming Friday for more European commentary work. But great to see so many brands here represented, from McLaren to Chevrolet to Porsche to BMW, the Blue Oval with the Mustang, the Audi R8, and of course this powerhouse in the form of the Mercedes-AMG here. Wouldn't you agree, Martin?
I've missed your linguistic skills with the foreign language. You can do the interviews actually if our German friends do well.
Yes, if Maximilian Röhrig and Andreas Hillig manage to get themselves towards, if they get themselves on pole. And as we say, you know what you said, you just jinxed that. You just made that happen. Maximilian Röhrig has just gone provisional pole with just over 7 minutes and 20 to go with a 1:44.099, exactly half a tenth ahead of Scott Thorne. So Andy Dorman still, I must be honest, the McLarens have really shown an impressive amount of pace. Dorman was towards the top of the timesheets. I mean, Farrell was in there in the top 10. There's James Merrills in the now this is a livery and a half, the old pink pig livery back in the old Porsche sports car days, and it's now on a Cayman 718 GT4. What a lovely livery, and it's really pleasing to see that on the grid.
Yeah, I love the sort of history of Porsche and the 23 car, which sadly isn't out because Kat's busy with working commitments. Isn't it great that drivers are actually busy at the moment, because we went through a really dark spell. Don't know where he's going there. I think he's on a detour, but the 23 car, the Salzburg, and it was celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Le Mans win, Porsches. and then the Pink Pig followed up pretty quickly. And great fun, and well done to the guys that designed it, Brendan, Rory, and Rich. Just love it. Love the he's having a play now. Let's get on with it, because we've got 5 minutes to go, and this isn't over. I think they're all out now. Rillig is in the pits, but yeah, this will be right down to the wire. But looking at the top 6, 7, they're all within a second.
Yep, and Andy Dorman now takes provisional pole by 60 thousandths ahead of Maximilian Röhrig in the BMW, and it looks like we've had a couple of drivers having some off-track excursions. I think that's Andy Mellors and Rich Hayden. But Dorman, again, just showing some really good pace here. But also Dave Marshall, who comes into this with the maximum amount of ballast here. I think it's 80 kilos, if memory serves me correctly. But still, we've seen it before in the Touring Car eSeries Season 2 that he was, for the majority of the season, the driver that had to cope with the maximum ballast most of the rounds. He still was able to get the title at the end of it all.
He just seems to love it. He was ballistic in the first 2 races. Didn't wasn't on the cards to win it, but did.
Yeah, and that just shows the caliber of drivers like Dave Marshall, who is currently 4th in qualifying with just over 4.5 minutes to go. 0.577 seconds off of Andy Dorman. Maximilian Röhrig rounds out the top 2 by 60 thousandths. Then it's a further half a tenth back to Scott Thorne. So 3 different brands represented in the top 3. There's Jack McIntyre, Dave Marshall's teammate. He's currently rounding out the top 5 positions as Kenny Press now jumps up into 15th position. I think that might be the case. Well, showing there's a couple of cars there. Rich Hayden and Rich Hayden's car is not showing on the timings on the left-hand side of your screen, but on the timing that we've got, I am seeing that he's running in around about 15th position in the Mustang. Andy Carroll now up into the top 10, just behind Konstantin Kletzer. Andy Mellors rounds out the top 8 positions. Good run by Tom O'Farrell in the second of the 2 McLaren 570S GT4s. It's Dave Marshall now pits. Alex Toth-Jones in the MSL Aston Martin Vantage goes up to P8 on a 145, 141, and then it changes again. Luke Whitehead goes up. James Merrills goes up, respectively, into 6th and 12th position. But Maxi Röhrig needs to put in a couple more laps at the very least to try and see if he can get the upper hand on Andy Dorman as we go on board on the BMW, as now Max Edmondson in the Audi R8 goes up into 8th position.
That's the Cayman going wide. Oh, that's compromised his lap. He won't be happy with that.
No, and there's Andy Mellors off track. That's a big time off track excursion. But Röhrig looking very calm and composed, very smooth inputs, smooth braking, going through the corners at the right speed, and now bouncing off the rev limiter, now into the braking zone. We'll probably shift down a gear or 2. And you can just see how composed, and obviously Röhrig knows the BMW M4 GT4 like the back of his hand, and that is quite clearly showing in the pace that the BMW driver is showing in this qualifying session, as we have just over 2 minutes to go in the session. But Andy Dorman still leads the way as Röhrig trying to battle with the rear end of that BMW. Looks like it got a bit sideways going into the penultimate corner on the circuit, but through Curva Misano, and he now goes down across towards the start-finish line. Does he improve that time around? No, it was a 1:44.819 that time, so
he was compromised.
Yeah,
he was compromised on that lap, and I think he'll do. He's got to get on with it if he wants another lap. But I don't think these cars respond well to a hot lap and then another one.
Yep, so Scott Thorne looking to improve. He just put in a 1:45.1 dead that time around, so just under a second off his best lap time of 1:44.149. That puts him 3rd on the grid for race 1 as he runs very wide coming out of Curva Misano that particular time, as Harry Ormerod now jumps up into 16th position, and that's on a 1:45.927. But that's pretty impressive. Down to the top 17, rounding out the top 17 is Rich Hayden at the moment here, Martin, but they're only covered by 1.9 seconds, incredibly close, especially at the top 5 at the minute.
Yeah, top 5, top 11. It's less than a second. It's a shorter circuit, fast, twisty bits. And you're looking at Luke there in the Camaro, and he's really enjoying himself at a circuit that really shouldn't suit the car. But yeah, this is going to be interesting.
So Andy Dorman has just put in an absolute flyer of a lap just then, a 1 minute 43.389, and that is over 0.7 of a second quicker than Maxi Röhrig in the BMW M4 GT4. Seems like that McLaren has got a little bit of an edge on the BMW at the minute as we fast approach the last few seconds of qualification here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli as Andreas Hillig now goes up into 4th place on a 1:44.398, and it's changing all the time. Rob Butler in the Mercedes has qualified effectively P5. He's pulled it into the pits, 0 on the timer. That is it for the session. Checkered flag now out, as it looks like Luke Whitehead has jumped up into 5th place on his final attempt to 1:44.552. Rich Hayden. Yep.
That was a stonking lap from Dorman there. That was just brilliant. And yeah, that's turned it on its head, really.
So Alex Soth-Jones getting to as high as 12th position on a 1:45.141. Max Edmondson in the Audi R8 managed to get up to 8th position on his final attempt to 1:44.746. Just around about 0.130 behind Dave Marshall. Rob Butler rounds out the top 6. Great effort from Luke Whitehead, as some drivers still might be on a final flying lap here at Misano. And I think I'm not too sure if Alex is one of them at the moment, but the top speed's hitting anywhere between 138 to nearly 142 miles an hour in these GT4 machines around this fantastic circuit. I think you can tell that Alex is trying to push a little bit here, isn't he? Judging by the actions of how the Vantage is responding to Alex himself as he comes around the final corner. So let's see if he does manage to. Well, he's at the penultimate corner there, so he's now coming through Curva Misano, and he will cross the line as Maxi Röhrig gets. Truncates the gap between himself and Andy Dorman, but Dorman looks to have taken pole. Here's Rich Hayden in the Ford Mustang GT4, a lovely machine in its own right. Good to have a bit of American muscle in both the form of the Chevrolet Camaro and the Ford Mustang, two cars that are now used within GT4. But it looks like, yep, Andy Dorman has taken pole position here for the first of 2 races here at Misano for round 2 of the inaugural Virtual Reality Racing Club GT4 eSeries. And I'm not too sure if we're going to get into race 1 very, very quickly. It's going to be a 20-minute sprint race around here at Misano. But what a job there by Andy Dorman, the McLaren now being the second different manufacturer in as many rounds here, Martin, to take pole position. Yeah,
really, really pleased to see that. What a great lap. And again, I think we'll see the 2 behind him, unless they can turn him over on the start. They'll be battling, and Andy Dorman, my prediction, will disappear. Then behind, I think we're in for a great race. Good to see Rob Butler, Luke Whitehead, Rob Butler, Dave Marshall, Edmondson, Jack McIntyre. They're all around each other. So should be a great race, and I think we're probably going to be diving into it fairly quickly. So do you want to do the driver interviews, Alex?
I will do. I'm going to head down there now to speak to Andy Dorman and hopefully Maximilian Röhrig. So bear with me just a second. I'll head down to the interview booth now. Congratulations, Andy Dorman. That was a Herculean effort there to get that pole position by nearly 6.5 tenths of a second. Andy, how did you manage that one? Because that McLaren seemed to be on fire this evening in qualifying.
Yeah, it seems to be going well tonight. A lot better than last week.
And your sort of thoughts going into the first race here at Misano. I mean, it's a track that suits the McLaren. The BMWs do have quite a bit of pace here as well. What are your first thoughts, really? I know it's going to be the rundown to Variante del Parco for the first time through turns 1 and 2, but then it's about just sort of keeping yourself out of trouble, isn't it? Yeah. So, Andy, all the very best of luck for race 1 this evening here at Misano.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, next up, Maxi Hörig. Herzlichen Glückwunsch mit den
Wait, I have to
Platz.
concentrate.
You have to concentrate. Okay. Okay, so okay, race one. So apologies for that. We ended up going straight into the race. So it is Andy. So we've now gotten underway here at Misano for the first of 2 races for round 2 of the GT4 series. And at the moment, Dorman has got away initially as Hörig is trying to follow Scott Thorne, Andreas Hillig, and Luke Whitehead round out the top 5 positions. As now it looks like we've had a Mercedes come into dramas. As Luke Whitehead looks to be right down the order. I think we might have just had a bit of an issue. So just bear with us just a moment as the drivers now making their way through. Paul Laramie in the red BMW M4 GT4 now rounding out the top 17 positions. Looks like he's got a couple of Chevrolets behind, one of which will be Kenny Press, the other one will be Luke Whitehead, but it is Andy Dorman battling away. Laramie. Now, was there a touch from behind? Possibly so. And the rear bumper of that BMW looks very, very much indented, as we've got one of the Audis trying to scrabble back onto the circuit. So the order already this time around here, Martin, has shifted quite dramatically, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and you watch the Roig. He's not given up. He's not been suckered into the battle with the second place, and Rob Butler's he's struggling to hang on. Behind him, there's going to be a great race. Alex Toft-Jones got a stonking start and is just pushing it. 7th place, James Merrill right behind him. Rich Hayden, look at that for a start. I don't know where that came from.
Well, Jack McIntyre I just saw had a little bit of contact, I think, with Andy Carroll. So he's now up against it as McIntyre was just in the top 10 positions as they are all battling over position. Whitehead trying to make his way up through the order once again, as Hörig now going into battle with Dorman for the lead. 17 minutes and 34 seconds plus an additional lap to go. And one of the key things here at Misano here, Martin, is Scott Thorne trying to go up the inside of Harry Omerod, and I think is trying to, that was nearly 3 abreast as Andy Mellors tried to go around towards the outside. I think possibly, well, Andy Mellors was trying to go side by side with Harry Omerod. Luke Whitehead trying to go around the outside to make it 3 abreast. So still very much anyone's game, as Harry Omerod, I think, might have just been involved in a slight incident. I think also Scott Thorne at the process too. But with 3 minutes down, Maximilian Hörig is the one that's trying to push the envelope and trying to catch on Andy Dorman at the moment as they go through into the fastest part of the circuit. They've gone through into Curvone, into turn 12, now into turn 13 before Curva del Caro, around the far side of the circuit. But still, Hörig is trying to keep pace with Dorman, and he's doing a very good job at the minute so far.
Yeah, very good job. He's keeping him honest, and I think he'll just sit there and suss him out. It's Rob Butler's just eking his way back into this, and behind, Dave Marshall is all over Farrell. Yeah.
And they round out the top 5 positions as Marshall looking up the inside of Tomo Farrell, going through into Variante del Parco for another time, as we're now effectively on lap number 3 with just over 16 minutes of the race to go. Kenny Press now drops, looks like there's been a little bit of an incident between him and Konstantin Kletzer. So Press drops out to 20th position, and one of the biggest surprises is Andreas Hillig, is all the way down in 21st position. So whether he's had dramas in the very first lap, I'm not too sure what happened there, but it seems like there's a lot of incidents happening. There's some slight amount of rubbing going on between the competitors. So it's going to be interesting to see.
There's no doubt there's quite a bit of pixelating in this one as well. It's not just the preserve of the touring cars. This is equally as intense.
So Andy Carroll and Jack McIntyre have made their way past Rich Hayden, who instantly counterattacks on Jack McIntyre and retakes 10th position here at the fantastic Misano circuit here in the Italian Adriatics. Rich Hayden now just the full commitment there through Curvone through turn 11 there before getting on the brakes just after turn 12 before 13. As Alex Toth-Jones now going side by side. Is that with that is with James Merrills, and Merrills gets towards the inside of well, it looks like the position has changed back once again as Alex Toth-Jones now, as it is side by side between Dave Marshall and Tom O'Farrell. Marshall will not have the inside run going into the first corner, but this time Tom O'Farrell retakes the position. So some great battles, but John Cole has just entered the pits, it looks like. Not too sure if there was an incident that caused him. He is dropping down the order. So James West and Harry Omerod and Andy Mellors now with Konstantin Kletzer now round out the top 15 positions. So 6 minutes gone, 14 to go, plus an additional lap, as Dave Marshall still keeping pace with Tom O'Farrell, and they're running quite within each other in terms of 2 to 3 tenths separating the pair on pure lap time, as there's a mistake there from Thomas O'Farrell, and that allows Dave Marshall the opportunity he needs to get up into 4th place. As Harry Omerod now trying to go up the inside of James West, as there's a bit of a lag spike there. I think that might be from Andy Mellors there. Car sort of twitching from left to right on the circuit. So now Harry Omerod gets a little touch from behind, and then James West gets one as well.
He's going sideways. He's crabbing.
Yeah,
he's damaged.
I think you're right there, Martin. That it looks like he might have some form of damage in respect of it. So they come through another couple of corners and up the inside. Looks like Konstantin Kletzer has got past Andy Mellors, as now Harry Omerod now nearly went a little bit wide there, but managed to cut it back through as Maximilian Röhrig sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 44.313, and the gap between him and Dorman has dropped down to under half a second.
And Dave Marshall's taken 3rd. Great driving. He really is a talent.
So the biggest question is what has happened to Rob Butler? Well, there's Alex Toth-Jones off the circuit. So I'm wondering if there was an incident. Looks like there might have been an incident between him and James Merrills and Rob Butler. So if the three were closing up on each other, that would then indicate how close the racing has been so far. There's Andy Mellors trying to catch James West. Toth-Jones is dropping down the order. Oh yeah, he's been pixelated.
He must have been hit quite hard, because that happened last week when
was there a touch from Luke Whitehead on Rich Hayden there, because Rich Hayden was rounding out the top 7 positions. Whitehead was closing quickly, and Jack McIntyre, as a result of that exchange, has managed to profit and has gone up to 7th, but then Luke Whitehead retaliates back up the inside of the BMW he goes. And then McIntyre fancies a bit of going side by side with the driver, with the Chevrolet Camaro at the moment.
Look at that! That's great, isn't it? They're trying to go three abreast. This is as mad as driving round Rome.
Or Turin, maybe. But Luke Whitehead being pressurised by Jack McIntyre, as Maxi Röhrig is on the back bumper of Dorman. Could very much go for the lead very, very shortly, and he's got the lead. Maxi Röhrig has got the lead. So, yep. Maxi Röhrig has got the job done, as Dave Marshall now comfortably pulls away. It was a Paulo, I do agree. commenting on YouTube, that was a shame because Rich was doing absolutely well. It's now down to 15th position as Luke Whitehead and Jack McIntyre still battling over 7th position. They're heading into the first part of the circuit, but Maximilian Herhig now has a half a second lead over Andy Dorman in the McLaren at the moment, and there are the two leaders on the main screen, with Luke Whitehead being chased down by Jack McIntyre in the early forays of this race. We're nearly at half-time distance here at the first of two races here at Misano. But what a job by Maxi Herhig, now managing to steal a march on Andy Dorman, who's had a bit more of lady luck on his side this time around in comparison with what happened last time out. But Dorman's still giving chase, and he's in the slipstream of the BMW. And when you think about it, the aerodynamics on that 570 will help it quite substantially in terms of not having so much of the dirty air to sort of cope with in terms of what the BMW is doing at the moment, because Maxi Herhig is now doing what Andy Dorman was doing from the initial throws of this race here, Martin, that he was the one that was punching the hole in the dirty air, and that allowed Maxi Herhig to get past.
Yeah, it's not over, this one. This is going to go on.
And we still have 9 minutes and 23 seconds plus an additional lap still to go.
Yeah, that BMW really is sorted. It's the setup is quite easy. Oh, the McLaren goes wide there.
That's going to allow that could allow Dave Marshall to go through if Marshall was close enough.
No,
but no, it hasn't. As I think there's been a few incidents behind the top two.
There's no doubt about that. The MSL cars took each other out, which is something I'm sure Philip will be having words with them after the race. Yeah. I don't mind them doing it if they're racing and they're on live coverage, but don't take each other out when you're not on TV.
No, exactly. That's one of the biggest rules in motorsport. Marcel Loeb says, yes, one of the best young sim racing talents from Germany. I completely concur with that statement, Marcel. And he's doing a fantastic job at the moment, because Maxi Herhig has opened up a gap of nearly 2 seconds over Andy Dorman, who ran wide a little bit earlier on, but it hasn't, even with that run wide, it still hasn't allowed Dave Marshall to close up. He's still 4.2 seconds behind the McLaren 570. Alex Toth Jones now ahead of Andy Carroll, with James Merrills in the Pink Pig Porsche 718 Cayman running out the top 10. Harry Omerod's done some good inroads at the moment. He's currently 11th ahead of the other BMW of Konstantin Kletzer. So James West looks to be behind these duo, as Kletzer looking to go up the inside of Omerod, and I think might have just made the move with just over 7 minutes and 40 still to go. He has done it. He has got the job done, as Maxi Herhig again sets another fastest lap of the race of 1 minute 44.258, and Paulo Ferreira cheering Maxi on, saying, just go Maxi, just bring it home. Well, he's doing the right thing at the moment, because he's got around about 8 or 9 minutes of this race still to go to manage to get a win. And obviously Dave Marshall picking up both victories last time out on the opening round. This will bring another BMW M4 GT4 driver to the spotlight, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. They set these BMWs up so well. There is in the various cars various setup things you can do. Pretty much they do adhere to the GT4 rules, but these various drivers can set up the setups, and each car is different on each circuit, which is great for us.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very true test when we go to the Nordschleife a bit later on in the season, as James Merrills tries to go up the inside of Andy Carroll and gets the
move. Let's see if that sticks. It's not over until this corner.
He's got the inside run, so Merrills has got it, but Carroll, as we've seen in previous VRRC competitions, not one to give up by any stretch of the imagination. And look, he's trying to go nearly side by side with Merrills for the very next corner, so the McLaren has got some pace. He sweeps up the inside of the Porsche, but Merrills keeps it pinned around the outside. That's a brave move. Nicely done there by Merrills to keep a hang onto 9th position with just under 6 minutes plus a lap still to go in the race.
Yeah, great defensive driving for one so young. He's learnt the dark art so early, which I guess is important for a young racing driver.
Yep, very, very much the case, and good to see that he's able to do his very, very best. I mean, he's been karting since 2003. He's also been a driver for a Formula Student team as well. His racing idol or hero, Frank Williams, of all people. Now that is one inspiration or idol or hero to actually have in your mindset. And he says that he's been dabbling for sim racing for about 10 years, but he only sort of starting racing at a true competition level a couple of years ago. And he's basically said that I think that the VRRC is at the cutting edge. So when it comes to narrowing that gap, here I am. Nicely done there. Nicely said there, Mr. Merrills, I must admit. Well put there, sir. Well put.
I have to say he is well versed. We've taken him under our wing at MSL, which is great. Philip Thompson is looking after him, and we're going to bring him on to the next stage. High hopes for the guy because he's really proactive. He's not a lazy driver. A lot of them are. He's very active on his social media. His feedback is fantastic, and he does have this drive, which is, I want to get it done. What do I do to get it done?
Yeah, exactly, and that's sometimes the best motivation that people can actually have to try and do that. It's Rich Hayden trying to go up the inside of James West, and the Mustang looks to have done the job, but the Porsche goes up the inside to try and retake the position. Hayden runs wide. Oh, they clash door panels there, but it looks like James West and the Porsche has just got ahead, but it seems to me that the Mustang has a little bit of the legs on the Porsche at the moment as Rich Hayden tries to mount a counter-offensive, but at the minute, James West, well, it looks like if they go into Koa Misano, will the Mustang have the amount of power to come out of the corner through into that? And it's not the case, but he goes into the slipstream of James West. Left and right goes the Mustang as he goes nearly towards the far part of the left-hand side, but round the outside through Variante del Parco goes Rich Hayden. He runs a little bit wide through the second part of the chicane. West round to the outside. A little bit of a touch from Rich Hayden loses the back end, but manages to reassert himself there on the circuit. But that has allowed Andy Mellors, as a result, to get past through that exchange.
That was a Freddie Flintoff catch. That was really well done.
So, yeah. We've got just 180 seconds of this race still to go as Alex Toth-Jones and James Merrills still battling over what is 7th position, but I wouldn't count out Andy Carroll in this battle because Carroll has been there or thereabouts on pace. Looking at the lap times between the trio, Alex Toth-Jones was actually the slowest out of the three, but by just 21 thousandths. Andy Carroll was actually slightly quicker than Alex Toth-Jones on that last lap, but James Merrills is actually putting in 1:45.2s at the minute. So a good job from the Porsche driver, but you still can't not give credit. You have to give credit to Alex Toth-Jones and Andy Carroll to keep where they are at the moment in what's been a very ultra-competitive opening race here at Misano. Wouldn't you agree here, Martin?
Yeah, Alex is experienced. He's got a season of GT4. He's got Porsche. He's got Aston experience this year. He knows what he's doing, and it's lovely to see Merrills chasing him, trying to thwart him.
Yeah, so it looks like Rob Butler is in the pits. Max Edmondson is in the pits as well, I believe. So that might be their races done and dusted with a significant amount of damage. There have been quite a few altercations throughout the first 20-minute race here at Misano, but still Maxi Röhrig leading the way by nearly 4 seconds ahead of Andy Dorman. Dave Marshall, Tom O'Farrell, Luke Whitehead round out the top 5 as Andy Mellors now trying to get that Mercedes past the Porsche 718 Cayman of James West, who's currently running in what is now 12th position, and it is a confirmed non-finish, a retirement for Rob Butler. Real shame for him at that particular moment in time, but it's a case of whether we might be down to 19 competitors, as Max Edmondson seems to be in the pits for a very, very considerable amount of time. But in all honesty, that is a real shame. You know, when you pick up a significant amount of damage, one of the things that you're going to do is, well, you're going to do one or two things here, Martin, aren't you? You're going to either repair that damage as quickly as you can, get back out and get some lap times in, or you're going to sort of save the machinery and come back fighting in race 2, which we normally find in VRRC True format normally provides a lot of entertainment.
Yeah, it's not all over. It's such a shame for Rob. He was going really well, but that must have been a big impact, because even on our virtual screen it was crabbing. So yeah, reverse grid. He'll love that second race. All to play for.
Yeah, as Paulo Ferreira says on YouTube, as we go into the last 20 seconds, Porsche is clearly amongst the most difficult to go fast in the GT4 pack. Great job from Merrill's and the guy that fought Rich Hayden. That would have been James West before the slight touch. I mean, it was the lightest of significant touches there as we hit 0 on the timer. So the next time around, Maximilian Herwig will get the last lap board, as Rich Hayden now has pulled into the pits. So whether he's had an incident that has caused him to retire suddenly, so it's pulled him into the pit. So Kenny Press and now John Cole will round out the top 15. But Herwig, the minute he got past Andy Dorman here, Martin, was completely unassailable. And at the moment, he's got a 4.2 second lead heading on towards the final lap of this race.
Yeah, he's just disappeared. That was a great start from him, and you've seen it over the seasons minis and into touring cars and into the first race. Normally they're squabbling behind the second and third, and they just let the P1 person go, but that didn't happen. Roeg he's just driven brilliantly.
Yep, and his best lap of this race was a 1:43.989. His last lap was within 0.2 of that as we go onto the final lap, with Herwig now going through the first and second chicanes. Oh, that was close between Mellors and West there, but Mellors manages to try and get towards the inside. Will he get through on the Porsche? West runs wide again, and it's allowing Mellors those incremental inches that he needs to get past. But then West gets an absolute great run of speed.
Tank slapper there for Mellors. It's just that Cayman. It really is an underrated car. It's I really like them. Very drivable.
Indeed they are, as they come across to start their final lap. So the battle for 12th position still quite clearly on, as Herwig now heading towards the top part of the circuit, as Mellors has West up the inside. West keeps 12th position for the minute through the Variante del Parco, but Mellors still keeping within there, as Herwig now begins to gather momentum through towards the latter part of the circuit. The M4 GT4 for the German will now head through Corvone, turn 11 at full speed, and then head towards the far part of the circuit. But a great battle here between West and Mellors in the dying throes of this race.
Yeah, great race. Really well controlled, Roeg.
Yep, and he's now going to be heading towards the penultimate corner. So here is Maxi Herwig now heading in towards Curva Misano for the final time, and it is a race 1 victory, the first of the season for Maximilian Herwig from Adrenaline E-Motorsport in the BMW M4 GT4. A great job by the German. Andy Dorman takes second position. Dave Marshall will round out the top 3, so 2 BMWs in the top 3 positions, split by a solitary McLaren. Tom O'Farrell will also come across the line and finish in 4th place ahead of the Chevrolet Camaro GT4 of Luke Whitehead, who will have Jack McIntyre about 4.1 seconds behind, rounding out the top 6 positions. But Mellors still now has the advantage over James West, as they now start making their way towards the final corner, Curva Misano. So Carroll takes 8th behind Toth Jones. McIntyre rounds out the top 6. Merrill's in 9th. Konstantin Kletzer rounds out the top 10 ahead of Harry Omerod in 11th place. Andy Mellors takes 12th ahead of James West. Kenny Press will probably take 14th position very, very shortly, followed by Rich Hayden in the sole Ford Mustang GT4 on the grid. So Press takes 14th. Hayden crosses the line. Andreas Hillig has managed to fight back a little bit further up the order and will hopefully try and get past Paul Laramie. There's a little bit of a touch between the pair. Yep, they will not give up until the checkered flag falls. So John Cole takes 16th, and it's a battle royale between these three at the end of it, between Laramie, who's leading Rillig, and Thorne. Rillig and Thorne were actually further up towards the back part of the top part of the order. As now Laramie goes on the brakes, so does Rillig as the pair run wide.
Whoops.
Who's going to get the run coming out of it? It looks like Laramie is going to beat Rillig to the flag, and that is the case for the predominantly bright red BMW M4 GT4. But Maxi Röhrig makes it two different winners in the first three races of this season. We've still got the second race to come in a very, very short time indeed. But Martin, just having a quick look back at that, Maxi Röhrig just absolutely dominated proceedings, and no one could touch him. I mean, not even Andy Dorman, who had the initial lead until just around the halfway point, and then Röhrig just went past and then just sort of put the hammer down and got away.
Yeah, great drive from Röhrig. Andy Dorman did all he could. Dave Marshall, yeah, that was a championship statement drive. He knows how to win championships. He's done it all year. Yeah, good drives down below. Really enjoyed that, but we better get on to the interviews, otherwise
yeah, we don't want to have what we had start at the first race where Maxi said, "I need to concentrate." So let's see if we
did.
He definitely did, and he made sure it counted in this race. So hopefully very shortly we'll try and get down to the interview booth very, very shortly. So I will head down there now to speak to the drivers. So I will be back with you, Martin, in just a moment. Okay, so we now go through to our top three here at the first race at Misano for round two of the VRRC GT4 eSeries. And firstly, I think I'm going to use your native tongue for this, Maxi. Herzlichen Glückwunsch bei dem Sieg heute Nacht bei den Ersteren hier in Misano. So, das war ein spannendes Rennen für dich, auch mit dem Kampf mit Andy Dorman und I don't know what's happened there, but well, I think we've had all the top three just jump out of the interview booth, so bear with me just a moment. Well, it looks like we're about to get underway with the second race. It was a quick turnaround there.
And here we go.
Right.
And action. Go,
okay.
go.
Lights are out. We are off and away. Rob Butler now leads the field down to Variante del Parco for the first time in this reverse grid race, as someone's got the headlights ablaze on the Audi a little bit further down the order. That looks to be John Cole. I judged it by the front, the red part of that Audi, as he's now going to try and see if he can make some moves up the order, as there seems to be a little bit of contact between Jack McIntyre and Andy Carroll in the first salvo, as Rich Hayden goes rally crossing in a Mustang. I mean, if he was going drifting, he'd probably be echoing Vaughan Gibson Jr., but that's nearly three abreast there for the battle for fourth position, which involves John Cole, and in the middle of that is the BMW of Paul Laramie. So everyone just trying to get one up on each other, as now we've got Rob Butler, we've also got, looks like, Scott Thorne and also Andreas Rillig, who are starting to break away. And the gap between Rillig and Hayden now 2.1 seconds as we are into the first 60 seconds of this race, plus then we'll have an additional lap at the end of this one. So realistically, Rob Butler got a good getaway, but Scott Thorne here, Martin, is not allowing to provide him with an opportunity to get away.
No, it's basically like race one. This is something we've not seen before, because normally the second and third, they squabble and the leader gets away, but this is going to be good.
I think one of the biggest things here is Andreas Rillig is one of the drivers that we have to keep an eye on, as that was Kenny Press trying to go up the inside of James West, but then Luke Whitehead trying to go side by side with the other Chevrolet, as now They are all trying to get past each other as Konstantin Kletzer side bombs into the left-hand door of Kenny Press there. Dave Marshall now up into 9th place. Jack McIntyre runs wide behind Harry Omerod, and then you've got the likes of Konstantin Kletzer, who's up ahead in 8th position, and he's trying to chase down Luke Whitehead. Dave Marshall's got Harry Omerod as Jack McIntyre makes it 3 wides between him and Max Edmondson and James Merrill's going into turn 1, and it looks like Omerod's been turned around and he drops down the order. So does Edmondson in the process. Well, 3 wide going into Variante del Parco never goes here at Misano, does it?
That was very messy. The whole start was typical of what we got used to. I love it personally, but yeah, very messy start from everybody. Yeah, looks like Toff Jones and Rich Hayden's written himself off. He's DNF'd.
Alex Toff Jones also in the pits as well. So the Aston Martin not faring too well in this first race. As Scott Thorne now battling some Mercedes 1-2 at the minute, with Thorne trying to battle Butler for the lead. And Scott Thorne ran a little bit wide. I think he might have outbraked himself slightly, nearly touched the left-hand side of Rob Butler's car, but Butler keeps the lead for the moment. Andres Hillig in 3rd place at the moment, Paul Laramie in 4th, John Cole, James West, Luke Whitehead, Konstantin Kletzer, Dave Marshall and Harry Omerod round out the top 10, followed by McIntyre, Merrills, Edmondson, Farrell, Carol Verhig now up into 16th position and is climbing. He at the moment, well, he's actually 13th now, as it is a confirmed DNF, unfortunately, for Alex Toth Jones. So we're down to 19 competitors as James West trying to close on Luke Whitehead for 7th position. Looks like Whitehead has taken the place initially, but then you've got Kletzer and Marshall not too far behind. Tom O'Farrell rounding out the top 10, according to what's going on the screens at home. But Rob Butler at the minute is leading the way by just over 0.3 of a second from Scott Thorne. This has been enthralling so far as Konstantin Kletzer looked up the inside of James West for 7th position going through the first part of Variante del Parco, but the Porsche manages to get the traction out of the first part of the chicane, as does Dave Marshall, who's got a real good run on Konstantin Kletzer in the battle for what is 8th position. As look at this here, Martin, from 4th all the way down to 9th. There's 6 cars battling over what could be a top 5 finish in around 16 or so minutes' time.
Yeah, it's great racing. Again, Dave Marshall doing what he has to do, doing what he does. He's quick, but he picks his moments. Oh, more overtaking there. This is going to be messy.
Yeah,
Kletzer you can't go around there.
Well, Kletzer actually tried to go up the inside of, I think it was John Cole there, and just literally straight lined it going into the corner. So I think he just outbraked himself, and that allowed Marshall to get past. Now Tom O'Farrell goes into the right-hand side door panel of Konstantin Kletzer as Chris Crossman is cheering on Dave Marshall, who is currently in 8th position. But a great battle here. The top 3 of this, what was a 6-car scrap, now really getting even more elbows out at the moment is now Dave Marshall trying to go up the inside of James West for 7th position. He takes a tighter line. West runs wide. Marshall up the inside. Nicely done. As again, O'Farrell up the inside of Kletzer. And I think he's just compromised himself there on the apex. I think he took a bit more than just apex. I think he took grass there as well, and that spat the back end. McLaren out sideways to the left-hand side is Scott Thorne. Sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 45.078. And look at this train of cars. So you got all the way from Luke Whitehead, John Cole, Paul Laramie, Dave Marshall, Konstantin Kletzer, Jack McIntyre, who's got James West going up the inside of him, going through Variante del Parco. Then they've got Tom O'Farrell just behind. Then look who's catching them up. James Merrills and Maximilian Herwig, as now James West going side by side with Tom O'Farrell, and the Porsche might have the inside run for the next corner, which is the case, but then Farrell trying to go around the outside of the Porsche, gets run a little bit wide there. West takes a better bit of apex on that particular exchange and keeps ahead and rounds out the top 10. But this is where the race to reverse grid really comes into its own, as now Maxi Herwig trying to go side by side. He's now flashing at Tom O'Farrell just up ahead saying, watch out, I'm fast, I'm coming through.
And look at this at the front there. This is going to be really close. We're into overtaking time very shortly, I think.
Yeah, I think that was very, very close there between James West and Tom Farrell as Merrills goes up the inside of the McLaren 570 VRRC GT4, though looks like O'Farrell might have had a little bit of touch on the back bumper of the Porsche, as Maxi Röhrig now starting to show that he is there, as that's a big run wide there by Andy Carroll, I believe. Well, no, Tom O'Farrell's Andy Carroll, who's just gone into the back end of James Merrill's Porsche, and that allows Maxi Röhrig to go up the inside of the McLaren. That's a great move from the German, just sensed the opportunity, knew that it was possibly going to happen. Is now Andreas Hillig in third position, rounds out the top three, but puts in the fastest lap, 1:45.078, and that's quickly beaten by Luke Whitehead by 60 thousandths on that very same lap, and Whitehead is rounding out the top four positions. But here comes Röhrig trying to go up the inside of Merrill through the first part of Variante del Parco, but the 650 BMW can't get past the MSL Pink Pig Porsche for the moment. 12 minutes and 20 seconds plus an additional lap still to go in this race. And it looks like there's been a clash between the leaders. I think the two leaders have come together ever so slightly, as now it's all kicking off. Laramie's being pushed along by O'Farrell, and Merrill's trying to go around the outside of the McLaren, but the McLaren very wise to it. Röhrig's still quite very much in this, as he's trying to go up the inside of the Porsche into the very next corner. The BMW, if it's got the legs on the Porsche, might get the job done into the next left-hander, and that could be the case. Röhrig up the inside of Merrill's, takes the position, and with this, Andy Carroll is very much with them, as is Andy Mellors in the Mercedes.
They're all over him. All over him.
And it's
Look at this.
Look at that, 2x2 hurrah into that particular corner. Oh, there's a turnaround. That is Andy Carroll that's been turned around, and I think that was by that was one of the Audis there. That might have, I think that was Max Edmondson in in 14th position, the Audi. So yeah, that was the case. So as that's a big run wide there for Paul Laramie, as Maxi Röhrig, I think, just had Max Edmondson trying to cut across the front of him. Oh, big time DNF for Rob Butler. Rob Butler out in the second successive race. That has put his chance of a title onslaught here in the inaugural VRRC GT4 eSeries very much on the back foot going into the next round next week. And Gorilla Mods on you.
Shame.
It's a real shame for Rob Butler. He was very, very combative and very, very good in the touring car E-Series, and it just seems like Lady Luck hasn't smiled on that particular driver at the moment. James West now in the pits, so could that be a third DNF? We've had Smith Jones. Could West be the third one? They do say that sometimes third time a charm, but not when it comes to retirements. Gorilla Mods on YouTube says this is exactly what makes it worth spending thousands of hours into modding cars. Thank you, Virtual Reality Racing Club, Rich Hayden, and MSL Motorsport Consultancy to make this happen. Well, thank you for putting all the effort in there, Gorilla Mods. These cars look absolutely fantastic, and it's a real pleasure to be able to have the chance to commentate on them. Right, halfway through the race we've gone. Got just under 10 minutes to go plus an additional lap, as now the gap between Scott Thorne and Andreas Hillig is now just over a second. So Rob Butler, who was battling away with Scott Thorne, let's not forget in the early part of this, for the lead, is now out of the race. Rich Hayden is a lap down in the Mustang. Kenny Press is in 18th position, as we now head to Konstantin Kletzer. Some great as that's a run wide there by John Cole in the Audi. Kletzer up the inside of the BMW, and I think he's got it through. I think he's made the job complete. He has. That was a great bit of textbook work there by Konstantin Kletzer up the inside of John Cole, but I think there might have just been the slightest bit of contact between them. However, look who is not too far behind. Jack McIntyre is not too far behind them in the second of the 10/10ths cars, as Dave Marshall puts in the fastest lap of the race, a 1:44.341, as McIntyre closing on the back bumper of John Cole for 6th position, with Konstantin Kletzer just up ahead, but there's a massive gap between him and Dave Marshall, who's about 5 seconds up the road at the minute. But
again, Dave Marshall doing what he does. He does stand a good chance of third place here, and that would do him for the championship.
Yeah, very much the case. I definitely agree with you there, Martin, wholeheartedly. 8.5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. Rich Hayden puts in his best effort of a 1:48. 0.9 there, I think. But then Kenny Press also puts in a personal best of 1:46.985 as the time is fast counting down for the conclusion of round 2 of the Virtual Reality Racing Club GT4 eSeries. And you can just see the amount of damage attrition, the amount of pixelated panels on these cars that have come into. I mean, just look at the side of the number 37 of Jack McIntyre. That has been quite literally been. I'm wondering if someone's had one of those pinballs or something and has been consistently throwing it against it, because that car has got quite a few dents, but it has been close quarter, bumper to bumper action all the way through this race 2 here at Misano. Oh, mistake there from McIntyre. He turned in. I think he tried putting.
Lost it.
Yeah, I think that might have been a bit of snap-on understeer there for the BMW, and that has put him straight into the path of Tom O'Farrell in the McLaren, who could very much catch the BMW very, very shortly indeed as they come down the main straightaway from Curva Misano down to Variante del Parco, the turn 1-2 chicane. So it's a right into a quick left. Then you've got a right-hander yet again before you go into turn 3, into 4, which comes back on itself into 5, then into the left at 6, up the back straightaway. So some great racing, and again with GT4s being a very, very different animal. They're all rear-wheel drive machinery. There is no traditional sort of quattro or four-wheel drive or X-drive, if you will, if you had a production vehicle. These cars are production-based. However, they are pretty much 100% race cars, as Maxi Herwig now closes on the back bumper once again in the battle for 10th position on James Merrills. And Merrills goes defensive into that corner. Herwig trying to get the cut back a little bit. Merrills runs right wide. Oh, and Herwig trying to pull out of the corner. He put, I think, a little bit too much power through there, and the back end stepped out to the right-hand side. So it put Herwig back on the back foot. He's got to start doing that momentum gathering once again in the 650 BMW.
Very mature drive from Merrill there to keep the race 1 winner behind him. I'm very impressed. Positioning his car, this is, it'll take a Herculean effort to keep him out, but well done, Merrill. That's a great drive.
Yeah, but he's going to run wide here, and that's going to open the door for Maxi Herwig, who can't capitalise. But it looks like there has been a change between Dave Marshall and Luke Whitehead in the battle for 3rd position. So I think Whitehead has now lost out as Herwig up the inside of Merrills to now take 10th position. That was a great switchback opportunity there for the German driver, and he managed to make the opportunity stick.
Merrills isn't over yet.
No, he came fighting back as Jack McIntyre towards the outside of John Cole through the third part of Variante del Parco. At that time, John Cole said, "No, the door is firmly shut. You are not getting past Mr. McIntyre." So the 37 still trying to battle away with the Audi of John Cole. And just behind them, if you look just behind there, Martin, you've got Max Edmondson in the other Audi, and then Tom O'Farrell in the 570S GT4 McLaren. So these two battles are going to wage on. We've got just 4 minutes to go, effectively, plus, 5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. So there's still a lot to play for. Obviously, the reverse grid race 2 always provides dynamics quite literally not normally seen in sim racing, but a good call by the Virtual Reality Racing Club and Rich Hayden to make the decision of putting that in, as McIntyre, I think, has a little bit of an outbreaking moment there. John Cole gets a bit compromised. There's a little bit of a touch between the pair, and that allows Max Edmondson to get past Jack McIntyre. And has Tom O'Farrell got past? Yes, he has. The McLaren has also done the business. And then you look in the background of that Maxi Herwig is not too far away. The gap was about 2.5 seconds. It's now gone down by over a second right now, as Paulo Ferreira says, great job by Andreas Relic, who's 1.5 seconds behind Scott Thorne, as we are fast approaching the conclusion of this second race here at Misano, and it's been an enthralling one so far. But the battle between O'Farrell and Cole just steps up another level as Cole runs a bit wide through cover Misano, tries to get the switch back on O'Farrell. This is allowing McIntyre, and look at how close Maxi Herwig and James Merrills are as well. As now this is going to be quite interesting, that Cole trying to go towards the outside.
3 into 1 doesn't go.
No. And looks like Cole has kept it in front of McIntyre. They bounce off each other's door panels, and Maxi Herwig, if he gets an opportunity, could have a chance of getting past two drivers to get up from 10th to 8th position momentarily. Still all to play for. Don't count out James Merrills at all, as now John Cole nearly compromises Maxi Röhrig there, trying to go through into turns 5 and 6 as we go on board the rear roof cam of Jack McIntyre, who's got John Cole just behind. So this is getting to be a very, very interesting battle. McIntyre taking a wide line to sweep into the corner, as opposed to what John Cole is doing. He's just trying to sort of do the old brake, turn, point and shoot with the accelerator pedal there. But McIntyre just carrying the momentum, rotating the BMW when he needs to. And then you can see Maxi Röhrig trying to do the same. He takes the German takes a bit more curve there than John Cole. 2 minutes and 40 seconds still to go. Martin, this has been an absolute treat here at Misano this evening, hasn't it? So
absolute treat again. Love the ballast, love the reverse grid, and what a great drive from Dave Marshall. You've got the two in front, fair play to them. But Dave Marshall came through and he's put himself into where champions do. You don't have to win every race, you have to just finish in the points.
The second season of the Touring Car E-Series very much did that as well. John Cole has decided to pit. With 2 minutes to go, he's decided to pull it into the pits. Now, I'm wondering, now he's had a penalty for track limit. According to the actual timing. So really, really good to actually see that. So John Cole, now that gives the place, that gives 9th position to Maximilian Röhrig, with James Merrills now rounding out the top 10. A good shout here for Andy Dorman, race 1 runner-up this evening here at Misano. Now up into what is effectively 11th position. Harry Omerod is in 13th position ahead of John Cole and Andy Mellors, it looks like. Andy Mellors now is actually being passed by Paul Laramie as we get into the last minute and 15 plus 1 additional lap. There is Dorman at the moment. He's still trying to do his utmost to try and get past James Merrills, but at the minute it's not quite happening for the Porsche driver just yet.
He's fighting hard.
So just under 60 seconds to go, plus an additional lap. Thorn leads so Scott Thorn in the Mercedes-AMG GT4 leads Andreas Hillig. Dave Marshall making it a duo of BMW M4 GT4s in the top 3 as Dorman trying to go up the inside of Merrills, but can't get through, as Paulo Ferreira on YouTube says Marshall's speed is from out of this world. Well, to be honest with you, he's consistent, if nothing else, Paolo, and that's what's brought him to the success that he's had through the Virtual Reality Racing Club Championships he's won so far. He's won both Touring Car E-Series. He was also the Sim Racing Champion in the Mini Challenge E-Series as well. So he's no slouch, let's say, as we go into the last few seconds. Just a few more to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... That is it. Race 2, 20 minutes timer has elapsed. So next time around, Scott Thorn. Now I'm looking at the lap times between him and Andreas Hillig at the moment here, Martin. Hillig did a 1:44.587 last time around, but Scott Thorn is doing what he needs to do. He did a 1:44.630, and he's got the gap of about 1.3 seconds at the moment.
I'm watching the Luke Whitehead Marshall. This is championship stuff. Luke's not letting him go. In fact, he's closing on him. Will he run out of time?
Yep, so the next time is you can now see how Dave Marshall is trying to break the runner momentum, break the slipstream that Luke Whitehead has in that Chevrolet Camaro, as they now go through into the far part of the circuit as the two leaders now make their way through into Curva del Carro for what will be the penultimate time. One more corner after this one. They will then head into the final corner at Curva Misano. So the leaders now starting to come through. They'll go onto the final lap. Andreas Hillig, let's see what his lap times are in comparison with Scott Thorn as the Mercedes crosses the line. He did a 1:45.836. Andreas Hillig did a 1:45.321, so that gap is now closing. It's now just dipped under a second. with just a few more corners to go. They're now heading into what is effectively turn 4 and 5. So Scott Thorne has done a really good job so far to keep the advances of Andreas Hillig at bay so far throughout this 20-minute incursion here for race 2.
Dave Marshall has found something there. He's gapped it to 1.2 seconds. He's obviously got the get on with it sticker from somebody. Great drive. Rillig, yeah, realistically 1.2. Just going to get into the twisty bits. Could be compromised here. Let's see.
Yeah, so Verheeg now closing on Jack McIntyre. So the 650 BMW from Adrenaline E Motorsports, and also 10 tenths sim racing teams, Jack McIntyre, they are embroiled in a battle over 8th position, as Scott Thorne now heads to Curva del Carro for the final time. He has a 1.351 second lead over Andreas Hillig, which will close under the braking zones, but 2 more corners to go. Through the penultimate turn goes Scott Thorne. This has been an absolutely fantastic drive from the Mercedes racer as he comes through, and he will now take the checkered flag here at Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli for race 2, ahead of Andreas Hillig from Adrenaline E Motorsports. Dave Marshall from 10 tenths sim racing team rounds out the top 3. Luke Whitehead from LWR Benchmark Motorsport completes the top 4. Konstantin Kletzer in the BMW rounds out the top 5 positions. Max Edmondson in 6th, Tom O'Farrell in 7th. Jack McIntyre will finish ahead of race 1 victor Maximilian Verheeg in the 650 BMW M4. Andy Dorman, race 1 runner-up. Race 2 finishes in 10th ahead of Harry Omerod, with James Merrills rounding out the top 12 positions. Andy Carroll completes the top 13. Here's James West. He'll finish in around 17th position behind John Cole, Andy Mellors. It looks like Andy Mellors has got past Paul Laramie in the dying stages of the race. And so Mellors will take 15th ahead of Paul Laramie. Here comes James West. Oh, Laramie spun on the final corner, apparently. So Laramie has got to really compose himself. He's crossed the line, though, ahead of James West, who now comes through Curva Misano, and even he nearly had a bit of a moment there. That would have been quite disastrous on the final lap of the race, but James West will take 17th. Here comes Kenny Press, the second Chevrolet on our grid, to cross the line in 18th position, with Rich Hayden finishing a lap down in the leaders. Unfortunately, 2 big DNFs in that race here, Martin, that we had both Rob Butler battling for the lead with Scott Thorne, and also Alex Todd Jones.
Yeah, that's motorsport. Poor old Alex. He just doesn't seem to have any luck. Yeah, what can I say? Reverse grid, another great race. Really entertaining. Well done, guys.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to head down and try and speak to a couple of our drivers from race 2 here at Misano, and I'll be back with you very shortly, Martin, to close things off here on the stream.
Yeah, great.
Scott Thorne, race 2 winner here at Misano. That was a great battle between yourself and Rob Butler in the early stages, but you managed to keep it on the circuit. Obviously, Rob having, unfortunately, a DNF. Just tell us from your perspective, Scott, the battle between you.
Well, he's become my unofficial teammate the last few weeks in terms of preparation and stuff, so it's quite good having a race with him, but I knew he was going to be tough to pass, and it was a bit of an unfortunate incident, but yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great. It was really interesting.
Now, obviously, we saw in the latter part of it that we saw that Rob go off. Did you see anything from your perspective? Because all of a sudden we saw him DNF, and you know he'd really kept you on your toes for the first half before Andreas started to try and close in on you in the second half of the race.
I think he lagged out. I think it was a technical problem.
Well, Scott, many congratulations and all the very best of luck for next time out when the series heads to Watkins Glen in the US of A. So well done this evening for the race 2 victory.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Andreas, vielleicht möchtest du auf Deutsch oder auf Englisch reden?
Oh, du kannst Deutsch.
Ja, ich kann Deutsch. Zweiter Platz heute Nacht bei den zweiten Rennen hier in Misano. Was sind deine Gefühle über was hat passiert nach dem Unfall vor Rob Butler? Und dann war du schon in zweiter Platz und ich habe es schon gemerkt, dass deine Rundenseite war immer schneller, aber es gibt keine genug Zeit, die Möglichkeit, Scott zu überholen.
Ja, Problem sind die 90 Kilo, die ich dabei habe. Da komme ich halt schwer voran. Also Scott war super schnell und congratulations Scott and yes, it was a hard race and yeah.
But still a competitive one, obviously. Maxi taking the first race victory for Adrenaline eMotorsports earlier on this evening, showing that you guys in the BMWs have a very good setup and a very good pace. Are you guys well underway with your preparations for Watkins Glen next week?
If you know my English.
Ja, okay, ich werde das auf Deutsch fragen. Nächste Woche sind es 2 Rennen in Watkins Glen. Hast ihr beide, bei dir und der Maxi, ein gutes Baseline-Setup für den M4 in Amerika zu sein, für ein bisschen mehr konkurrenzfähig über die nächsten 2 Rennen zu sein, denkst du?
Ich denke schon. Also wir haben ja ein Team, die uns ein sehr, sehr gutes Setup machen und ich gehe davon aus, dass wir da auf jeden Fall mithalten können.
Okay, danke Andreas und viel Glück für nächste Woche.
Thanks.
So effectively, that they've got a good setup ready for next week, and we'll see how they get on. But last but by no means least, 2-time touring car eSeries champion here at VRRC and Mini Challenge eSeries sim racing champion Dave Marshall rounds out the podium. Dave, again, we see this time and time with you that whenever you've got ballast, you seem to rise to the occasion. And today was definitely not an exception on that part.
My God, that was unexpected today. Don't know whether you saw in qualifying, we were probably, I don't know, 0.8 to a second off pole. You know, it was no excuse. Andreas had 90 kilograms in, I believe, and he was 7/10 up the road. So we had some work to do in qualifying, and literally just made a little tweak to the alignment, and the car just came good, if I'm honest. You know, I think it was a case of probably always going to struggle in quali pace with all the weight on. But yeah, just a bit of racecraft and having good race pace just really helps you get through the grid. So yeah, really good result.
Dave, it's Martin Jones, MSL here. That was the driver of a championship winner. Really impressed. I'll do the interpretation because Alex has just been speaking German. Not a lot of know that. But yeah, great drive. Really enjoy your intelligence on the race circuit.
Yeah, it was. I don't know whether you could see towards the end there with me and Luke Whitehead, but I was using every inch of the track. You know, there was a few times coming on, especially onto the start-finish line straight, just catching a bit of grass on the outside, and it's especially in a lively rear-wheel drive. You know, I don't mind telling people what settings I've got. You know, I'm not running traction control, so if the back end lights up, I'm probably going in a pit wall. So, you know, it was just a case of, you know, try and get past Luke, and then once I was past Luke, to keep my head down and try and not look in my mirror too much, because that car is rapid in a straight line.
Yeah, the second to last lap, he really did light it up, and you pulled out that essential half a second on him.
Yeah. So I was lapping. I can't remember the second now. I think it was something like a 44.3, and I was about a tenth or two within that lap every lap. And then towards the end, Luke was just catching that little bit, and sure enough, it was, you know, with 2 laps from the end, I thought, you know, another lap on that back straight, and you know, he's going to probably have us. And luckily, I put this first sector in of a lifetime, and I was 2/10 up. And I think he might have had a bit of a bad first sector, and that was just enough to get that second gap going down the back straight, and just allowed us to relax going into the last complex. So, yeah, fair play to him. He pedals that Chevy very, very well. Interesting to see what he does the rest of the season.
Yeah, great. many thanks. Love your work, mate.
Cheers, mate.
So I think just before we sign off this evening, let's have a chat with the man behind the virtual reality racing this evening. Rich Hayden joins us. Evening, Rich. Another great round here, obviously after Imola last time out, but here at Misano, we saw some very close quarter racing all the way through the second round of the GT4 eSeries. Just give us your thoughts about how you think it sort of transpired from, the close quarter racing we had from the drivers this evening.
Good evening. Firstly, thank you for stepping in last minute, Alex, when we were let down by our commentator at the last minute. So I appreciate you stepping in. Thank you.
No problem at all, Rich. It's a pleasure as always.
That was fun. It's a difficult circuit, and I think we had a few little bits of argy-bargy. Obviously, I'm going to watch the stream back and see what happened. Yet again, I was punted off from behind. I think I need to put a big target on the back of the car. Maybe people will miss it if I've got a target on the back of it. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun. I'm actually really looking forward to Watkins Glen as well. That's a great circuit for GT4 cars.
Rich, it's Martin here. You don't need a target because it's moving. The rear end moves all over the place. I'm surprised anybody could hit it. Great fun, and once again, thank you very much. Loving working with you guys. Thanks to Michael Yao, Alex Goldschmidt, and VRRC. And I'll check out now.
Well, Martin, thanks, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Virtual Reality Racing Club GT4 eSeries that took place here this evening at Misano. That's it for this week. Join us once again in just 7 days' time when round 3 heads to the United States of America as Watkins Glen will see another 2 dynamite races in prospect here at the GT4 eSeries. Thank you very much for watching and have a very good evening.
Between the two of them,
The inside of Coates.
Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.